everybody. Thanks so much for joining us right here on The Right View. Tonight, we're joined by, he doesn't really need any introduction, former NFL quarterback, founder of Cuts by Jay and Pat, and host of Uncut with Jay Cutler. You guessed it, Jay Cutler. Jay, thanks for joining us on The Right View. I got to tell you, though, I feel like we maybe had a bit of a scheduling mix-up because I thought we were getting this Jay Cutler today when you came on, and then I was like, oh, well, this will work too. I'm just kidding. How often do you get confused with the bodybuilder Jay Cutler? Very often?
Not as much anymore, but whenever because he's been doing that for a long time.
A long time, yes.
And
I knew him before I knew you.
I know. I remember I was like, 12, 14 years old, and I saw him on TV, and I was like, oh my gosh, like we have the same name. And I've been trying to get him on the podcast for the past month.
Should.
I know. But he's got like jaycutler.com. Like he owns my name.
Yeah, he's the real deal. He had it before.
He is the real deal.
He had it before you. I don't know.
I know. I'm second tier, so it's fine though.
That's all right. Maybe you guys can get together. I would 100% be tuning in for that. Let us know.
I know. It's a really good one.
But speaking of your podcast, you recently had my husband on there. Now, I got to be clear with you. I really was looking forward to doing your show. Outside
who's your husband?
Prevented me from doing it. He's you might have seen him. He's a tall guy. Okay. He's actually taller than you. Lara Trump.
He was great.
How was he?
He was fabulous. Besides the I guess Trump Towers in New York has kind of bad Wi-Fi. Other than that, it was fabulous.
He was all out of sorts. You guys couldn't get connected.
We could not get connected.
But it ended up working out.
Yeah, he was great. Obviously you married him for a reason, and he's awesome dude. Well collected, well spoken. Spoke from the heart. Had a lot of commonalities. So it was a fun one.
Good. Well, maybe one day I'll be able to reciprocate the favor and do your show. I'd love to do it.
Sure.
But tell me about that, because obviously you've had quite a career in sports. People have known who you are for a long time, not as long as the original bodybuilding Jay Cutler, as we just noted. But then you decided to get involved in the podcast world. Jay, you could have just kind of roll off into the sunset. I'm sure you did very well for yourself. Mm-hmm. Why the podcast? Why did you want to get in the game of all this?
That's a great question. I think now with, I've got an interest in a lot of different things. Like this gives me the ability to talk to, we did a podcast with a Bigfoot expert, and we've did it in politics. We've been in health, we've been kind of all over the spectrum, and it's been fun for me to do that. So, and I think the way the media is going, we're trending more towards news and information that isn't driven by some sort of political agenda or money agenda. So it was my ability to give people an array of information that I thought was fun and just something I enjoyed.
I love it. And I think you're so right. You're saying that there's a political agenda out there driving the mainstream media. Say it ain't so. I don't believe you. Of course, like we all see, and it's sort of horrifying. And I got to just give an applause to independent journalists out there, because without these people, quite frankly, Jay, we wouldn't even know what's going on in the world a lot of times. But I think it's very cool.
And they're very few and far between nowadays.
Yes, very few. And it's a tough job because they don't have, the backing of a big institution, and they're just out there doing the grind, doing the job. And kudos to these people. Thank God they're out there. But it is very cool that you wanted to do this, and that you got everything from Lara Trump to a Bigfoot expert. All of it. It's great. And it's a fun thing to do. That's why, I like doing this as well. But, you also haven't been afraid to sort of get in the fray of politics. A lot of people stay way out of that. A lot of people wouldn't have even had Lara Trump on their show. So, I just got to ask you about that, because it would be very easy, again, to not get involved, to just keep your mouth shut. Nobody wants to ruffle any feathers these days. But you've kind of been out front. I've been seeing some things you're posting out there. You're teetering right on the edge there, Jay. You're not scared.
I'm maybe past the edge at this point.
Yeah,
it's fine.
You're past
just
it.
Fine. Yeah. I mean, I think there's a silent majority out there that are really scared. I mean, most people are scared, like, I can't get canceled. I've got a job. I've got, a career. I've got to pay my mortgage. I've got to, support my kids. And I understand that. And I get that. I mean, I'm blessed and lucky enough to not be in that position. So if my podcast, podcast one is going to hate me for saying this, but like, if it gets canceled, it gets canceled. Or if I can't continue to do what I'm doing, I'm gonna be fine. And I'm not saying that in a selfish way or in any sort of way. It's just, that's where my life is at. And I would rather go out there and say what I believe and be there for people that can't say anything and they're silence right now than sit at home like, I wish things were different.
Amen. And by the way, I wish more people felt that way. I can't escape it. Yeah. It's my last name. We all know who I voted for. We all know.
Yeah, you're screwed. You don't have a choice.
It's it. That's it. I mean, I'm really fully involved. But I do think that, look, it would be people get nervous, even people who have been very successful like you have. They don't want to speak out because they're worried about the backlash. They're worried about people saying mean things to them. Yeah. And perhaps being a football player actually prepared you in some ways for that. Because look, I know when you go play kind of a rival team, you're on their home turf, there are people saying some kind of crazy stuff to you. Obviously, it's all in fun of sport, but maybe that kind of prepared you for this, because it has to feel like, you don't really care in order to be able to speak out and say what you think these days about things, right?
Yeah, I mean, I think you don't care is probably exaggeration. I mean, because you care. I mean, everyone cares to a certain extent. I think you bring up a great point. Like, I think I'm more prepared for that. I mean, we used to go into the old Oakland Raiders stadium, and like beer cans are being thrown at you. You've got little kids giving you the finger. I mean, it's just it's just part of it. Like, so like that's been my livelihood, and that's athletics. Like, you're going to there's two sides of the entire story. But I do think, social media has kind of skewed things. Big tech has kind of skewed things. I'll lose 5,000 followers, but every single mention, every single DM is positive whenever I say something that's maybe a little bit more on the right side of politics. And I'll have hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of things supporting whatever that cause is.
Right.
So I think there's a huge majority, and that's what I was talking to your husband Eric about. Like, he's like, I walk down the streets and people are coming up, silently like, "Hey, thanks for what you're doing. We appreciate you guys."
In Manhattan, in like the liberal insane. Bastion of the world. Yeah.
So I mean, you get Nashville and Kentucky and Indiana. I was just out in Colorado. I mean, everyone's the same. Everyone's like, "Hey, like, we're just kind of tired of this. Like, we've got to move on. We've got to progress. Like, we've got to get past this at some point." And I think everyone's just getting a little bit fed up with it.
I just kind of think, and I don't want to get sidetracked here, but this kind of dawned on me earlier today. I think about like my grandfather who fought in World War II and the Greatest Generation. Obviously, we just lost Bob Dole, a week or so ago. And people of that era and what they endured during World War II, the people that lived through the Great Depression, and now the fact that like our military is training people about their pronouns and worried about things like this. I wonder what these people, if they could just fast forward like 80 years and look at things now, they'd be like, well, gosh, you guys must not really have real problems if this is what you're worried about. But I feel like we've gotten so far off track with so many things. We're focusing on things that almost aren't important. And I know you have kids. I have two kids. I always think about what is it going to be like if we continue in this direction when my kids get to be my age. I don't know. It's kind of frightening. So I think you're right. I think there are a lot of people who see this stuff and they're like, this nonsense has got to end. We've got to get back to reality here. And if not for us, then for the next generation coming up. Because how old are your kids, Jay?
9, 7, and 6.
I know. I like lose track of all of it. Man, you have 3. I have 2. Yeah. They're 2 and 4. Yeah. So they're
you might as well have another one like between 2 and 4. It's really just a minute.
Did my husband tell you to say this?
it's just another mouth to feed. Like it literally, it makes no difference.
Literally, my husband would love to have another kid. And
Yeah.
I'm like, I feel like I'm good if I go to the grocery store with everybody. I can do it because I have two hands to like grab everybody. A third, what am I doing? I gotta have somebody strap it on me.
Once you have the third one, the first one just kind of figures out like, all right, this is life. Like I've got to be a little bit more independent. And then you're back down to two, and like you got a helper. Like you'll figure it out.
But wait, do you have siblings?
I've got two younger sisters.
Okay, so you're one of three, but you're the oldest. That's interesting. My husband is the youngest of three. So in my mind, he wants to have a third because he's like, I wouldn't have been here if my parents hadn't had the third one. Anyway, not to get off on a tangent, but I think you're right about the silent majority. Honestly, it's the reason that I think all of us go out there every day and do what we think is right for the future of this country. And we have to continue to fight for it. And we have to stand up and talk about it, Jay. So just thank you for doing that, because they don't make it easy on anybody to do that. You talked about, obviously, go ahead.
No, go ahead.
No, you go ahead.
You go. I mean, I was gonna just say, like, for our kids' sake, like, I do think that there's a huge silent majority, and I'm sure you travel and I travel, and like there's an uprising, I think, happening. There's a lot of people out there that are on the kids' side. I mean, you look at school boards, across America, like all the moms and dads are coming to support like this. People are moving. People are moving in the right direction.
Did I hear that you might run for school board? Is that accurate?
That is accurate. I can't do it until 2024. It's a 4-year term for each district in Tennessee. So I'm ready to go. There's a bunch of moms and dads across the district that are ready to do it. Like we just got to kind of wait our turn, and then we're gonna do it. Because I mean, like I said, I have a 9, 7, and 6-year-old. So like, my kids are gonna be in the public school system in Williamson County for quite a bit of time. So I want to get involved, and I want to make sure that we're doing the right things for our kids.
I mean, it's quite frankly the only thing that matters. If we're not doing that, then what's the point of doing anything? You obviously have made a name for yourself playing football, but I know you played a lot of other sports, and now I know you and my husband had a lot in common, but I feel like Jay played every sport under the sun, including football. And I fancied myself maybe was going to be the first woman to like really play football. I know it's ridiculous, Jay. And yet I thought I had a shot. This is way back when. College football is one of my all-time favorite things in history. But was football your favorite sport growing up, or was it just kind of what you were best at?
I liked basketball and baseball. We lived across the street from a park, and if I was out there, I'd be out there playing basketball till 10, 11, 12 o'clock at night. And like my parents, like they'd open the windows, if they heard the ball bouncing, like we were fine. And we were small town Indiana, so I mean that was a different time.
God, I love that. That's how it should be.
And it didn't really hit, like football didn't hit me really hard until I think my sophomore, beginning of my junior year. And that's when it clicked, and I was like football trumps everything by far. Because I loved basketball. I played more baseball than anything growing up, and even into high school. I mean, I would play summer baseball. We'd travel and play 60 games in 2 months. So, but beginning of my junior year, I was like, all right, football's it. And that's whenever it was just a passion. Like it was just a bug that hit me.
Wow. And you weren't just a quarterback. You played all different positions, offense, defense. I always felt like that if I had my choice, I would love to have been a defensive player, perhaps a linebacker, just like really hitting people all the time.
Yes. You got some anger built up in you, huh?
I mean, apparently so. There's a lot of crazy people out there, Jay. And yes, they write crazy stuff on your social media. It's easy to do when you hide behind a phone or a computer, right?
Absolutely.
So obviously, I read that you were, I think, a leading scorer in basketball. Is that right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so my dad, I'm just going to throw it out there, and I don't want to have any sort of a competitive situation here, but my dad,
Too late for that.
Yeah, I know, is the all-time leading scorer in the history of the state of North Carolina for the senior league basketball team. And I know you're not there yet, Jay, but if and when, I just want to throw it out because it might be something you want to try for, because I know that that's sort of been a past tradition for you. So
do you get like a trophy or a plaque for that? Like what works there?
You know what? I think there's a plaque. I got to tell you. I'll tell you in a couple of days because I'm headed to North Carolina for Christmas.
Okay.
Do you spend Christmas in Tennessee? Where are you spending Christmas?
Yeah. We're going to Park City and skiing for a couple days, 3-4 days, and we're going to come right back right before Christmas because obviously Santa's coming. We've got the elves on the shelf. We've got the whole thing happening. So, like, actually, my middle son wants to put a deer camera in the Christmas tree so we can catch Santa. So like, I gotta figure this one out. He's not letting it go.
Wow. Well, my son, who's 4, is really beside himself because he doesn't believe that Santa Claus is coming to my parents' house, which is where I'm having a hard time convincing him that Santa's going to make it to North Carolina. He will, and we, thank God, have not gotten to Elf on the Shelf. Nobody send us one because I will murder you.
Don't.
I've heard it's the worst.
Go down. It's the worst. Don't even go down that road. Just don't do it. It's brutal.
It's like once you start shaving, you got to keep going. You just can't stop otherwise.
I forgot to move it last night, and I woke up at 5:30. I was like, damn it.
Yeah, got to get that out.
The boys were already down there, looking at them, they were just, you guys were really good yesterday, so they didn't have to move.
Yeah, well, good luck with the deer camera catching Santa. I hope that works out well for everybody. Right. I would be remiss, Jay, if I didn't ask you what it was like discovering the Smokin' Jay Cutler meme, because obviously one of the greats of all time, right?
Yeah. Whenever that happened, all the Barstool guys were in Chicago at that point. Big Cat and some of those dudes. And I mean, we were hanging out, and I wasn't for sure if it came from them or if it came from a different source. So we kind of let it ride for a minute, and then we shut it down, and then it kind of came back. And at that point, I was like, you know what? Just
never going anywhere.
Let these guys make their money.
Yeah.
It's fine. It's fun. And everyone in Chicago jumps on. And I still get stuff on social media about it all the time.
Sure. Yeah. Well, it's just.
It's clever. I mean, it's clever, and I get it, and I applaud them.
Well, you have to be a good sport because not only did you have that going on, they also parodied you on South Park.
Yeah.
And I mean, for anyone that hasn't seen, you also were a very good sport about that. You could have gotten upset and bitter, but that's kind of cool. I'm still waiting for my cameo on South Park. I'm sure they're writing it as we speak. Not bad to be on South Park.
No, it's not a bad thing at all. And I didn't watch South Park. I never watched it. So when I heard about that, I was like, well, I mean, there's worse things out there, I suppose.
Yeah. I mean, there's a lot worse things than that. Yes. Believe me. Just talk to some folks in our family. We can tell you about that. But I feel like, for someone like you I love what you're talking about when you're saying you might run for school board. I love that you're outspoken about your views and that you have such a great attitude about things, because I think it makes you more of a real person to people. Yeah. And I feel like so often, especially sports stars, they just seem so unattainable and so out of touch with things. You got your podcast. You seem like a normal guy. Do you feel like, are you doing the things that make you happy? Is there something else coming down the pipe? Is there another job you would like to pursue at some point, Jay?
I mean, there's a lot of things in the pipe work, but I at this point in my life, I'm really not trying to pressure anything. I'm not trying to do anything outside my scope. If it comes down the line and it's something I like to do, I'm all in. And that's what kind of happened after I got done playing football. I just kind of wanted to take some time because there was never anything besides football for a long time in my life. Yeah. I didn't have a plan B. I didn't have some other career I wanted to do. I've been playing football since 6 years old. So, it's hard to transition from, that all in all the time to, all right, you're 35, 36, 37 years old, and you've got to figure out, all right, what else do I want to do?
And that's so young, Terry. For most people, that's when they're sort of starting their career to sort of be
Sure.
ending a career. And like you're saying, like that's your identity. When you're
Yes.
a football player, that's it. You have to be all in on that. And I mean, I'm sure that's similar to what happens with a lot of Olympians. You know, you look
For
at these
sure.
Olympians, they gain a lot of fame and a lot of popularity. And, you know, you can't do it forever, as much as I hate to admit it. I'm 39, which is horrifying on all sorts of levels. I don't know how this happened. And in my mind, I could still go do whatever I want and I'm going to recover quickly. But truly, like, you can't do it forever. Was there ever anything, though, that you thought if football didn't work out for you, you wanted to do?
No, I mean, I've been extremely lucky, lucky. I mean, from the time, you know, I just kind of wanted to play sports. I didn't know what sport it was going to be early on. Kind of settled on football, was lucky enough to go Vanderbilt, was lucky enough to have some really good coaches and players around me, and was able to get drafted and go to Denver and Chicago. And it's just kind of been something that I never really had to think about and never really wanted to think about. So there's never, hey, like, this might end, you know, next year. You've got to figure out what else you want to do. You know, I did this from time I was 5 to 35 or 36, whatever it was. And so I was completely lucky and blessed, and was surrounded by so many good people along the way.
It is very lucky. I'll say I've had a lot of careers leading up to where I am now. I've literally been a personal trainer, a bartender, a waitress. I've been a producer for television, behind the camera in different respects, a booker, like all different things. I went to culinary school. I'm a pastry chef technically. Oh, yeah. Wow. I've done a lot of things. So I'm trying to envision that is pretty heavy to have just sort of the one thing you're doing.
That's right? I mean, that's also not to say, like, I had summer jobs. Like, I was in the back of a garbage truck. I poured concrete.
Good
like,
for
you know, I did. I mean, I did.
That's why you're real, Jay. That's what you get.
I mean, I had to pay for my own insurance for my car. I had to do a lot of these things. Like, it wasn't just like it was red carpet, just play football. Like, I came up from a middle to lower class family. My dad and mom did everything under the sun to make sure we didn't need things. But, you know, I had to go out there and figure things out in the summer and make money so that I could literally survive in college. You know, $20 in college, like, that lasted from Thursday night to Sunday night.
Well, I think you and I are around a similar age. So I mean, $20 now, I feel like you get nothing. And that's a whole nother topic we could talk about forever.
2 gallons of gas, 3 gallons of gas.
Oh my gosh, exactly. It's actually frightening. I was just telling somebody yesterday, I fill up my gas tank. There's a gas station right beside my daughter's school, and every Monday before I drop her off, I stop and get gas. Every week, I keep seeing the price going up and up and up. And obviously, I'm really lucky that it's not going to affect my bottom line. But for a lot of people, it does. A lot of people live paycheck to paycheck. They're counting on things costing around the same amount of money every time they go buy them. And they don't. And it's honestly, I don't even know, you know, the trajectory here is a little scary. But having 3 kids, and obviously coming from a family like you did, I grew up in a middle-class family. And look, I had everything I ever needed. I didn't have everything I wanted growing up. And I think that's probably the best way to raise kids, you know? But how do you, at this point, make sure that you're raising your kids the right way? Because I think about it all the time. My dad made us do some crazy stuff, like 8 o'clock on Saturday mornings. We were out doing yard work. I mean, I feel like my kids are probably not going to like me for some part of their adolescence. And I think that's probably how you do it. I don't know. What's your thought?
You have to. And because, I mean, you already live. I mean, my kids already live such a privileged life. I mean, our house, the car.
They got elves on the shelf, you know?
Yeah, we have 3 elves on the shelf.
Oh, like, my gosh, forget it.
There's things like that I look at and I'm like, listen, like, I want you to have a better life than I had growing up. My parents wanted me to have a better life than they had growing up. But you have to make them aware of that and realize, hey, like, this doesn't come just easy. And they're like, hey, like, you know, we have money. I'm like, no, I have money. Like, you guys have nothing. Like, you guys just get to live somewhere that's kind of cool. So I make them do things. They have chores. Like they wanted
Good
to,
for you.
they wanted to build they wanted to have a fire in the fireplace. I was like, all right, you guys go out in the woods and just find the wood. Like we're
Yeah.
not, like, well, we have all this stuff chopped up. I'm like, no, we're not doing that. Go and
Good for
find the
you.
wood and we'll build a fire for you guys. And they're
Good.
bringing back stuff. I mean, so I think and I was talking to somebody in the office yesterday about this. I think from age 2 to like 10, like, you've got to love your kids and you've got to support them. You got to do this from, 10, 12 to 18. Like they've got to learn that they're not privileged and they've got to get
Right.
jobs. And I think that's the balance you kind of have to figure out for kids, because I think it's really, really easy to spoil kids, especially with social media and money these
Totally.
days. And as long as you're aware of it and make it important, I think it can be done.
Yeah. I mean, and you're in a bit of a boat like we are. Obviously, your kids, if they don't already know, will learn who their dad is, and they'll say, "Oh, well, like we don't." Do they know?
Yep.
By the way, do they get it?
Oh yeah.
Oh.
I mean, my 9-year-old, like, he literally just, I think all he does is memorize sports and ESPN and
That's so fun.
he's all over. I mean, he can tell you stuff from like 1992. I'm like, bro, like, what are you doing?
Wow. Okay. Wow. It's a little. I mean, I like that. That's he's gonna get you. You know that. Like that's how that goes.
They've got it, and the school's small. So, but the kids have been pretty phenomenal. Like we've done a good job with them.
Oh, that's great. Yeah. I mean, I think about for our kids too. Like my kids have no idea that their grandfather was the president of the United States or even the gravity of that sort of thing. But they recognize the like the airplane and the helicopter, and they like, that's grandpa's. I'm like, let's check back in a couple more years. I don't want to say anything too soon, Jay.
Yeah, no, don't. Like, let them figure it out. Let them figure it out. I mean, but it's coming. Like, you're gonna have a lot of questions here down the line.
I know. So, look, I mean, I think it's very cool that you came on the show. Other people in your shoes might not, but you're very open and just relaxed about things, and I think that's awesome. Do you get a hard time at all from other people celebrities or other sports figures for kind of speaking out on your views at all?
No, not really.
Good.
You get that kind of one-off from time to time, but like, I mean, for the most, but like, I think you're the same. I think Eric's the same. Like, I can have conversations with anybody from the other side.
Totally.
From the liberal side, like, one of my best friends in the entire world is gay. Like, he's a phenomenal human being. I've got liberal friends. I've got people that are against, whatever they're against. I have no problem with this. I have no problem with the vaccine. Like, if you want to get it, get it. The mask, you want to wear your mask. I don't care about those things. So I can have these conversations and we can come to an understanding. I obviously have my beliefs and my lane. So if you're against me or if you're with me, it's fine. Like, I think we've lost the ability to, work things out, talk through it, and understand each side of this.
That's so true. I mean, there used to be a time and place where in America, there was public discourse. There was an ability to talk to one another and the open and free exchange of ideas. That's what this country was all about, is being able to say what you thought without fear of repercussion, without fear of something bad happening to you. And unfortunately, it feels like we've regressed in so many respects. And you're right. Look, I am friends. Some of my best friends, I still don't know if they voted for my father-in-law. Some of them, I now know they did not. That doesn't mean I'm not going to be friends with you. I can still break bread with you. We can still sit down and have a civil conversation. I think, though, that unfortunately there are more people on the right side of the aisle that would generally say that than the left side of the aisle. There seems to be a lot of animosity from folks on the left, and they just want nothing to do with anyone who is a conservative in any way, shape, or form. And I hope that changes, because at the end of the day, Jay, we're all Americans, right? And I feel like so many times people forget that we're more alike than we are different. There is a concerted effort as far as I'm concerned, to divide us and make us think that we're more different. And I don't believe that. I believe at the end of the day, we all want what's best for our families. We all want to do the right thing. And we all have to remember that we're Americans and we're so blessed to live in this country. So I hope we get back there. But I have to ask you, I ask everybody that comes on this show,
Sure.
what do you think is the best part of America? And what do you think is the biggest threat to the future of the country?
Well, I mean, I think you said the best part of America. Like we all are Americans, and we all have the ability. And you look back on our history and the grit and the how much the country has grown in the last just 100 years, and the ability to invent, the ability to make things, the ability to do all these things in America. Like you look at different countries, and like it's not a possibility. Like you literally
Right.
can do anything under the sun in America if you try, if you work, if you surround yourself with good people. It's just that's just part of America's history, and like that's how we are. That's why we are where we are today.
Yeah.
I mean, I think the biggest threat is the division. You look at big pharma, you look at big tech, you look at the food system in the U.S. That's what scares me about where we are right now. Censorship, all these
So true.
all these things that are kind of working together above us to divide us and create this tension and keep us in this little spiral of division. That's what scares me. And until we kind of break one of this chain and this circle of division, it worries me where we're going.
I know. You know what? I always think though, look, if you are out on the street and you see someone in distress, you're going to help them. That's just
Yes.
how we are as human beings.
Yes.
It's human nature. And I think that's the American spirit. You want to help one another. You want to do the right thing. And so I think we have to remember that. It's easy when you're behind a screen, whether it's a computer, a phone, TV, whatever it is, to feel like somebody is stirring the pot. They're doing it. And so but at the end of the day, I just think that we're a more civil society than they give us credit for. And I think that there's a lot of smoke and mirrors with this stuff. And I believe the future is bright for America. I believe in this country. I believe in who we are as a group of people. And you just laid out some of the reasons it is the greatest country in the world. So hopefully the best is yet to come. And the best is yet to come from Jay Cutler. I mean, we're going to just stay tuned. Obviously, the podcast, I'm going to suggest where can everybody tune in? General podcast platforms?
Yep. Anywhere you watch podcasts, we're on it, I think. I hope.
And if you go to jcutler.com, you will not find this Jay Cutler. Right?
You'll find a bigger version.
Yeah, maybe we'll get you guys on together or something, or you're going to have them on your show. But I do want to say thanks for your time.
Pleasure.
You're doing a great thing by speaking out, and I know that you get a lot of positive reinforcement on that, but I'm going to throw another one out there at you. Thank you for doing it. You're giving a lot of other people courage to do the same thing. So thanks for joining The Right View, and Merry Christmas, and good luck with the deer camera finding Santa Claus. Let us know.
Thank you. I will. Thank you. I appreciate you having me on. It was fun.
All right. To everybody at home, as always, we'll see you back here next time for more of The Right View.